Hello, guys. Welcome to another episode of the THPStrength podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about upper body and how it relates to jumping. First, we're going to introduce ourselves. My name is Isaiah Rivera. I am a professional dunker, and I am also obsessed with jump training. I have been training athletes for about almost 2 years now, and I also have been obsessed with studying it for the past almost 10 years. I have my bachelor's degree in exercise science from University of Central Florida, and I am John's Padawan. He has mentored me for the past 3 years. So yeah, that's me. Also, I have 48-inch vertical, and I worked for it.
Include that. You should probably include that. Yeah.
Tested officially on a Vertec.
Yeah. So this is my favorite part of every episode because usually I just kind of rant and every day it's going to be different. I'm just going to put different credentials in. So today, my name is John Evans. I am a 5'11.5" pro amateur dunker, as in I almost did an East Bay yesterday. So I'm officially a dunker. If you can do a windmill in an East Bay, you're a dunker. You have 3 dunks in your bag. 4 if you include a two-hander, and that's me. So I'm a pro dunker. I have a just under 40 inches. I'll say 40 inches because I'm more legit than other people in my testing protocols. If I were to say my actual vertical according to everyone else's protocols, what would you say
Probably
my vertical is?
42.
42?
Yeah.
I have a 42 vertical.
And I would have a 50.
And Isaiah would have I have a 42. Isaiah has a 50. I'm responsible for coaching Isaiah to 42.5, 43 to 48, getting his knees healthy, and I have a master's degree in sports science. I've interned a bunch of places and know a lot of shit. I'm very good at what I do. I'm pretty smart. I'm like a brain. I'm a brain as well as an athlete.
All right. So this week's podcast is brought to you by Legion Supplements. One of the biggest questions we get asked is, how can I improve recovery? One of the only ways to do this is to give your body more of what it already needs. Increasing bioavailability of these micronutrients can help you. In other words, it lets your body do what it is already trying to do during recovery, but way better, baby. Use the code THP at checkout if you decide to purchase some of the supplements. And secondly, we want to shout out Hawkins Dynamics. If you're looking for force plates to fact check us, go check them out. They have great leasing options. And lastly, if you are looking to get coached by us to jump higher, run faster, be stronger, just be a better human overall, go to THPStrength.com. You'll get personally coached by me and John Evans, customized training. You can also sign up for a consultation call, and on there we can talk to you about full service options and see if you're a good fit for us, or you can sign up for training only. And without further ado, let's get into the podcast. I guess this is how we start all our podcasts. John, what is your experience with training upper body?
Yeah, we didn't even introduce the topic here. So today's
I introduced that at the beginning.
Okay, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
I was sipping coffee from my new THP mug. Shout out my girlfriend Lauren. You're the best, Lauren. I love you. Smoking hot wife. That's, what is that?
Ricky Bobby.
Ricky Bobby. Yeah. What's the Willfare? What's it called though? Talladega Nights.
Yeah.
Anyway, so my experience with upper body training. Well, I have included it and taken it out of my training a number of times. I, generally speaking, am way lighter when I take out, just lifting in general, but when I take out upper body training, I'll usually lose weight at first, and then I'll start to gain weight. And I think the reason why is because I actually start to gain fat mass, which maybe we can get into a little bit in the podcast here, but I tend to, the topic really is this, so our experiences are pretty relevant.
Yeah.
But I will tend to gain fat mass when I take out the upper body, and that's if I do it for an extended period of time. So if I take it out, the first month, I'll usually just jump higher, and then as I have it out longer, I will generally start to get a little bit pudgier. So the upper body volume kind of serves as a means of adding volume to my training and makes me a little bit leaner in the end. But if I get too big and I start to hypertrophy too much, then it'll also hurt my vertical. So it's kind of a sweet spot. Oh, excuse me. It's kind of a sweet spot for me in terms of, that's right, ladies. I am a bachelor to the rapture. Yeah, there's a sweet spot for me in terms of upper body volume, in terms of upper body mass. As a 1 foot jumper, I will say it has never helped my high jump. I think it's helped my dunking a little bit, but it's almost never good for my high jump. When I start looking like a gorilla from doing too much upper body volume, like when my body composition looks really good, and if you were to take a mirror selfie, I'd be yoked. My high jump is usually not great because that requires me to do a lot of upper body volume, and my arms are so long that I look like a gorilla. I don't even know how else to explain it. I look so awkward and disproportionate, and it just doesn't help. So yeah, I think for me there's a sweet spot with it, but it definitely does help my body composition. So
Yeah. So my experience with it is it all started in high school when I started strength training for basketball. Obviously, as a basketball player, you got to be strong. Especially the higher the level of competition, the stronger you got to be, because it becomes a pretty physical game. So started lifting upper body really consistently. I bought the book, Starting Strength.
Starting Strength by Mark Ripto.
Yep. I bought that book, so I used his routine. I was doing bench press, and alternating that with military press every other workout. Started getting pretty strong with that. And then after I graduated, that's when I completely focused on dunking. I stopped doing upper body completely because I just saw it kind of like irrelevant to dunking and being better as a dunker. Also, I found that if I was doing a lot of bench pressing specifically and also dunking a lot, like dunking every day, my shoulders would get wrecked. I used to have a lot of issues with my shoulders, like shoulder impingement and that type of thing from doing upper body and dunking a lot at the same time. So from the age of like 19 to basically now, I didn't do upper body ever. When I started working with John, we started adding in some circuit days, and that's like a super low volume of upper body. It's not very intense, but that we started working that into it. That helped my body composition a lot, and it has all the other benefits of circuit training, which we can probably cover in another podcast another day. And then most recently, I would say in the past maybe 4 to 5 months, when I got hurt with my back and my quad and all that stuff, I started doing actual like heavy upper body again, like trying to get my bench press up, weighted pull-ups, rows, that sort of thing, military presses again, and actually like dedicated days to upper body. So I started doing that a lot. I started blowing it up a little bit more, upper body. My girlfriend liked it a lot, which was more motivation to keep doing more upper body.
Let's be honest here. Let's just take a pause real quick here. The only reason Isaiah and I have ever added upper body was to look better.
Yeah, I mean it feels good, like, and even not even just like for the ladies, like, yo, I'll go to a freaking family gathering and then they'll be like, "Oh, you look bigger," or like I'll walk into a basketball court, someone hasn't seen me in a while, and they're like, "Yo, like you're looking yoked." Like it makes you feel good.
Which is stupid because it's like, but have you seen my calves?
Have you seen my upper quad, baby?
You see my quad and my ass cheeks? It's like, no, I haven't, John. Actually, that would be gay. Well, it's not gay of you to talk about my nipples. I mean,
yeah.
It's 2020. Love wins.
So been looking better, been a lot stronger with upper body. So that's been pretty fun. But then most recently, literally within the last 2 weeks, now that I've started dunking frequently, and this is probably the most frequently that I've dunked in maybe like 2-3 years. Maybe longer than that, because when we first started, we were just jumping once a week, maybe twice a week. But now that my dunking frequency's gone up, I've seen the effect that upper body has on my dunking, and overall been feeling really sluggish. My shoulders are a little achy when I'm dunking. Then my arms just feel heavy when I'm dunking. So I've been kind of trying to take a step back and analyze what effect upper body truly has. Talked with John about this. It's possible that this could just be fatigue, accumulated fatigue from the past months of strength training in the upper body. So it's possible that I could back off, and it could have the same effect that, I mean, the same reason we use strength training on the legs for jumping, right? We can back off, and it's possible. I could get faster when I'm in the air doing the motions for the dunks and all that stuff. So that could be something we experiment with. Also, along with the same point, I recently finished reading Science and Practice of Strength Training by Zatsiorsky. And on there, they talk about how specificity is one of the most important things in adaptation. And one of the ways that they mentioned seeing what muscles are specific to whatever it is you're doing is do the activity at a very intense level and at a high volume, and the next day see what muscles are sore, right? So for jumping, I'm thinking my left quad, my left ass cheek is always sore. So what's probably the most specific lifts? Probably squatting and hip thrusts or something like that. Yesterday, John, he was doing a lot of East Bay attempts, got really close, did a shit ton of attempts.
Let's just take a second here to pause and appreciate the fact that I went from not being able to East Bay on 9 foot ever to the highest completed East Bay being on 8, 10, maybe 9 foot once, to going to 9'10". Real news, people. Real news.
So yeah, that took me back. That was crazy. When yesterday he called me and he was like, "Guess what?" And I was like, "What?" And then he was like, "Almost."
Yeah. What did you think I was gonna say?
I don't even know. I wasn't expecting that though. Like that was the last thing. The last thing I was expecting was I almost East Bayed on 910. But so
I'll tell you what, I wasn't expecting it either. Because Isaiah's seen my attempts. Like, how piss poor were my old attempts?
terrible. It hurts the eye.
I told him, I was like, I looked like the letter 7. Like, one leg is totally straight, the other leg's up, and it just looks so bad. I'm like bent over in a crippled position, and my back always gets sore. And I'm like, I hate this. I'm not doing this anymore. And I was like, F this. I don't want to practice this. Like, it's just not worth it. And Isaiah's like, yeah, it's because your technique sucks. And I was like, okay, fair, but I don't want to do it anymore. Anyways, what he was saying is, yeah, my arms are really sore today. I texted him today, and I was like, was it you or the chat? And I was like, why the F does it feel like my upper back has gone through a blender?
Yeah.
Like,
so like if you've never dunked before, right? And you were to go out on a low rim and just start trying all different kinds of trick dunks, right? Obviously your legs are going to be sore. I mean, if you're a 2-foot jumper, your quads, calves, shins, your ass, it's all going to be sore. But I would put your traps and like your shoulders and your upper back are going to be the second most sore muscle behind your quads. Like they get absolutely wrecked when they're doing trick dunks. So there might be something to say about periodizing upper body strength training in jumping, specifically the shoulders and your upper back.
Yeah, and I feel like our experience is to kind of pull this all together. There's no research on pro dunking and upper body work. There's very little research on upper body volume and jumping higher. I think they've done research to say that there's a certain percentage that contributes, like the arm swing contributes to your vertical jump. And so people assume, oh, well, if you have stronger arms, then you should jump higher. And I think that's a jump in terms of, like, that's a hell of an assumption. There's a lot of degrees of separation away from a jump and the contribution that you get from that and bench press or whatever, swinging dumbbells in front of you. Like, yeah, there's a level of specificity to that, but max strength is probably not the answer because it's not directly pushing on the ground. It's not directly propulsive. You're getting the boost from timing up bottom dead center arm swing with your block foot and getting a really high peak force. And I would say that's probably more important than anything else. And that said, they've definitely not done research on approach jumps, bilateral approach jumps or unilateral approach jumps, and the arm swing's contribution to jumping. So I think more than anything else, the importance of the arms in the jump is syncing up bottom dead center arm swing with the block foot. But there's not really any research that's indicating that. That's more anecdotal, using my scientific mind to come to conclusions. When people don't do that well, They don't jump high.
Yeah.
So I think, again, this is anecdotal, but it's the best evidence that we have. And that's why our experiences are going to guide this podcast, because there's not much else that we can go by.
Yeah. My hypothesis would be that strength training the upper body wouldn't aid in increasing the vertical jump because of the muscle mass gained in the upper body. And strength does go up higher in proportion than muscle mass, but I don't think that they help to an extent that is enough that it'll offset the gain in muscle mass. What I do think upper body would help with is technique, right? Because if you periodize upper body strength training, the whole point of periodizing is so that you can do whatever it is specific, faster, more explosive. So I think if you were to periodize, like let's take a behind the back, for example. The left arm is abducting in. So that's
wait. Abducting in or adducting in? Abduction would
be ADD.
Oh, thank God. ADD, like your focus right now.
Adducting in, yeah. So your left arm's adducting in, so that's your lat. So I would think pull-ups, rows, any kind of pull would help with that.
You're also internally rotating too.
Yeah, yeah. And then
rotator cuff.
And then your right arm, you're externally rotating to catch the ball, and then you're abducting
behind the back.
up. Yeah.
No, because for the transfer, you'd be up. Your hands would drive up to your hand. Your hands would drive up to your face, and then you're gonna internally rotate
the left
and adduct.
Arm.
Yep. And you're gonna you're gonna supinate your hand as well, and then the other hand. What's the other hand do?
The other hand? So you're externally rotating at the shoulder because you're receiving it like this. Right, so you're opening up this way.
Oh, interesting. Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so like that's interesting. I didn't know that. That's how you push it into your hand.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool. All right.
Yeah.
And then you're adducting, you said.
And then you're abducting up, so that's like
adducting or abducting? On the catch. Yeah.
So, you're adducting to receiving it.
In adduction.
Yeah.
You adduct and externally rotate to receive it, and then you abduct as you lift the ball up.
Yeah, and internally rotate to
to finish up. Yeah.
So
wow, I'm glad we're on the same page here, Isaiah.
Yes. So I think strength training could help with that. And then another factor or another variable that's important to consider is how your upper body mass affects mobility. Because mobility,
I was thinking that too.
Mobility is everything.
This is like the baseball like questioning. It's like, oh, should I bench press? 'Cause it's gonna ruin my mobility, and it's like, well, it might. And range of motion is important, but if you're throwing regularly, it probably won't impact it too much.
Exactly.
But if you're noticing a change, like maybe you're doing too much, or maybe you're not. But baseball is also different because your hands are really important in dunking for sure. But I would argue most people have the limb velocity to do what they need to do. Like most people inherently have the limb velocity to do it. It's not like you need to be Mike Tyson out there throwing jabs or like whoever. You don't have to have hands like that. Having fast hands helps, but that's another level higher.
Yeah.
That your hands don't need to move that fast. You're also going to be limited more, or you're probably going to be limited more by your ability to transfer the ball if you're doing anything with a transfer. So
another thing to consider too is the ball is a weight. Like it's a mass, and you're trying
to so light that it's so light.
Yeah. So
I just think it's more of the coordination, right? Like,
yeah,
can you keep the ball in your hand? Your terminal velocity that you can move your hand upwards or whatever else is. You're never going to reach that, even with a ball in your hand. Like, let's say that you just held the ball with glue or a weight that weighed the same as the ball, and you're doing that arm action. You're never going to achieve that velocity in actual dunk because getting the ball into your hand, unless maybe you or Jordan or someone else, into your hand is going to be the biggest limiter.
Yeah, so most people have the capability to reach the velocity needed to hit a dunk. What's going to connect that is coordination. It's more about mobility and coordination. So I guess that's a contrary point against how useful would upper body strength? Because if you already have the speed necessary for it, you might be just better off working on the coordination aspect of it and possibly the mobility aspect of it. So it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah. I think the only other piece maybe that I would add is the benefits that you get from. I'm getting called right now by Ryan Nagel. Ryan Nagel, I can't believe you're calling me during a freaking podcast. Anyways, one of the only other
benefits at this time. Yesterday it was Dan.
Dude, I don't know why. Like it happens. I bet you my girlfriend's gonna call in like 2 minutes. But yeah, like the training impact that you get, or the training influence, I guess, or maybe the outcomes that you get from adding upper body volume internally, physiologically, there's actually quite a bit. You could get increased hormone, the increased hormone, acute hormone changes or spikes, which again, some people say it doesn't matter, but I'm gonna err on the side of it does. maybe it doesn't in your short-term study, your 4-week study, but over the course of 32 weeks, like Chris Bearcat said, if you lengthen that out over the lifetime of your training, it probably does matter. You get the neural benefit of being able to output more, essentially, in whatever you're doing. Like your central nervous system is all connected. So if you're volitionally trying harder in upper body work, maybe that intent carries over to the legs. There is some research that shows that the crossover effect. And maybe there's some benefit there. You get the added benefit of just having more volume in general, more physiological stress there. You're getting more metabolites to build up. You're getting more inhibition from the neurotransmitters from neuron to neuron. You're getting more central fatigue and the ability to try harder, and you're getting more stimuli with adrenaline and the different, I forget what they're called, the epinephrine, norepinephrine. Yeah. So neurohormones. And I think all of those kind of together, combined, create this fatigue cocktail where maybe over time, when you pull that volume away, you have something that you can really benefit from. Mm-hmm. So I think that's another reason why, like, I'll keep it in there. It's still in my training. Also, I don't take it out completely.
It can have benefits for your health too. If you're lifting at like the proper volumes and right, you're not going heavy as fuck or super intense too often, like it can help with like your shoulder health. If people are experiencing tendinopathy at the elbow, like shit like that, like it can help in that regard as well.
Yeah, I think you'd have to find the perfect balance of it, but there's definitely truth to that too. So I feel like we've covered most everything, right? Is there anything we're missing here?
And I also got to leave in 5 minutes. So I think the last thing, what is the THP strength? What's the final point? What's the conclusion?
It depends. I know you guys are like, are you fucking kidding me? But no, I mean, it really does. Like, if you want it in your training, understand there are limitations and that you can't do it, or there are certain considerations that have to be made. You can't do it all the time. You can't get big as shit. Yeah. You can do it, and there are some benefits, and there are certain times that you might want to take it out because you can see some benefits.
At your goals are, what your goals are, and base your answer around that goal, right?
If your goal is to get women, you should probably put upper in your training.
Yeah.
If your goal is to get women by being a freak athlete and having a big Instagram following, which doesn't work, I guess it does because it makes you more confident. And if more men respect you, then in a sense, then you carry yourself differently. Maybe you'll get more women. Being a good person and being attractive is ultimately what matters.
Yeah. And it depends how willing are you to use your clout to attract people.
Yeah,
you're also going to be
usually doesn't work. People. Yeah. We could go, man. We could really go in right now. But I would say
we need to do like podcast after dark where we talk about jumping related topics.
People do like that stuff. Yeah. I would say this though, like as far as the upper body thing goes with women, in my experience, is as long as you have you don't have to be massive. As long as you have a decent shape to you, you know what I mean? You are attractive enough as far as it comes to your upper body. Yeah. You're probably going to be fine. If your goal is to pick,
it definitely helps.
It helps. It helps a little bit, I would say, for sure. Like it's better than being a blob and skinny. Like
it's like you should see it as icing on top of the cake. Like you're not gonna get a girlfriend because of your upper body, But if you have a girlfriend, she will like it more.
I think it's more like a threshold. There's a threshold. There's an upper body threshold. Once you pass that threshold, you're good. You don't need to be any bigger. It also depends on the type of women you're trying to attract and where you're attracting them. If you're trying to attract women that, you're at a bar or a club or something like that, being big will definitely help.
Yeah.
But if your goal, because
but if you're at
talking
the
about a bunch of
library,
random people, if you're at the library or something, or you got a girl in your class, or you are meeting someone at a coffee shop, or you're going on a date from an app predicated on your success of one picture of you shirtless or some shit, then
it all depends. Depends.
It depends. It really does. Like, I would say there's a certain threshold. You should look, like I always say, be built like an athlete. I want you to look like an athlete.
Yeah.
Do you look like an athlete? Are you fat? Does your upper body, you don't want to be looking like a string bean. Like, that's probably too. You want to look like an athlete. You want to look like a jumper that is athletic. Look at Jay Clark, look at Jordan, look at Isaiah, look at me, look at these jumpers. You don't need to be.
Look matters a lot.
Look good.
Like, you can definitely look at somebody, and like if someone's elite, the most likely, and in terms of like just pure output and how freaky they are in terms of output, they will look like an athlete. When I first started working with John, I wasn't a freak in terms of output, and I look softer, like I look more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think with 1 foot jumpers, like high jumpers specifically, there's a certain look that you'll see. Like on the track, you can tell with jumpers specifically, like what guys. There's like levels to it. You will see these what I call like rangy guys, where you're like that dude, but you don't know until you see them jump. But then you kind of realize like, oh, looking like that.
It also depends too, like speed versus power jumper, because there's that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
There's the college athlete that you film. I think it's like University of Tennessee or University of Texas.
Oh,
those two.
Daryl Sullivan.
Yeah,
he's a tank.
He's a freaky.
He's a freak. I wonder if we get him on the podcast. That'd be sick.
That would be dope. I would love to talk to him.
Yeah. We don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole. Really, what we were saying was, because once we start, and you got to go in 1 minute.
Yeah.
Really, all we're saying is there's a sweet spot for your upper body with everything. There's a sweet spot if you're trying to date a girl, depending on what your goals are. There's a sweet spot for jumping. There's a sweet spot for body composition. There's a sweet spot for long-term periodization and jumping performance. You just got to know when to put it in, where to put it in. I'd say generally, if you're a jumper, put it in earlier in the year. Take it out when you want to get really specific.
Yep.
Simply put, right?
All right.
Do you agree with that? Zay?
I completely agree with that.
All right, I'll do the closing statements.
All
right, guys. Thanks for listening. We appreciate it. Make sure that you like, comment, subscribe. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, make sure that you also leave a comment there. Give us 5 stars and tag us in your story. If you tag us in your story, we will repost you. We love to push out our podcast and get as much of this information out to people as we can. And that is all. We will catch you on tomorrow's episode. Peace out.
Peace.